Hey everyone, Pete Calandra here. The track you just heard makes extensive use of the recently released Korg multi-poly virtual synthesizer, or multi-poly native, I think they're calling it, which is a plug-in version of their hardware synth. There are a lot of videos that you can go to on YouTube where they explain what the instrument is, how it's made up, and they do a demo where they play through all the presets. What I thought I would do would be to write a piece of music making extensive use of the plugin and see how that goes. Before we do a track breakdown, let's take care of some business. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Please leave any comments or questions down below. Thanks so much, and let's get right into it. So quickly going through the track, we have 19 tracks of instruments. We've got Spitfire hammers, Spitfire Abbey Road violins 1, violins 2, and cello spiccato. All these are spiccato articulations. Everything else, including the drum kit, is the multi-poly. So what I've done is I've composed using presets, and I've edited some of those presets a bit, and I'll go over some of those edits that I've done. And also I've made as much use as I can of animation using the mod wheel, and we'll show how that changes the sound. So the piece starts off here with this particular preset called Back to Work Combo, and this is what the page looks like. And then you can go into the edit, and you see that it's got a sequence to it, and it's got really cool effects. And what I've done with this track is I've made use of mod wheel here. You can see how that works, and you can hear how the sound will change. So let me solo this out and play a little bit of it. So you can hear that there's a filter sweep, and it's really interesting also how crunchy the sound is when it first starts off, and then it becomes very dark and murky and then moves into a sequence. What I did in terms of editing this was I went to the sequencer and I changed some of the pitches on layer D over here and here and here. So I took some of the steps and I made them into different pitches. I just played around with it to get something that I liked. And so that's that track there. Then we come in with a synth sweep sound, which is this one here, Arena Announcement. And I've also done, as you can see, work with mod wheel, and also work with expression on a lot of the tracks. So let's take a listen to this soloed out. Right, so if we look here, we can see with this how the mod wheel is playing around with the cutoff frequency and a little bit with the resonance. The delay there is created by the Echo Boy, right? I've got half note and quarter note with some high cut feedback, and I'm using the ping pong so it bounces back and forth between the left and right ear. If you're wearing headphones, we've done expression right here, which you can see, as well as the mod wheel. So what I did here was, let me play it from about here and we'll listen to it, is that I wanted, as this starts getting murkier, there's going to be a brighter filter sweep, and I wanted them to overlap. And I wanted that to cut off right when this drum kit came in. So this is really interesting. This is called the Itchy kit, and I didn't think I did any work here in terms of changing this particular sound, but it's got an incredibly deep kick drum. Right, you can hear it there. What I ended up having to do with this is adding in a high pass filter to get rid of some of the low end, because it was just filling up so much of the bottom. And without the So I just did a very simple pattern there. Let's take it from right here and listen to the beginning of that. Then right on the downbeat, I've got these airdrops. Right here, I've got these airdrops. And I did nothing with these. I left them the way they were because the sound was just so cool. So you can hear there's a lot of whole tone scale going on there and these descending two-note tritone figures. And then what I do at the end here is I use another percussive sound, which is these Lake Moon mallets. And these I've edited. I added a second layer, and I added these sine waves, and I added a cross delay, eighth note and eighth note dot with a low pass filter, and some modern chorus on that. So let's just solo out layer B. That just adds a little bit more interest, especially with the delay, to layer A. And then also doubling this descending scale here, I've got Abbey Road Violin 1. And that is going through cinematic rooms. You just need it a little bit more, as somebody else on YouTube says, a little more splosh. Let's take a listen to the melody into this descending unison scale and see how that unfolds. And then this sequence here continues on. The kick drum comes in. We repeat everything here. And we've added the hammers. Full string section. And I really think that texture works out really well. So on the downbeat here, we have almost like an electronic crash cymbal from the Itchy kit. Right, and the synth sequence continues on. Kick drum. And then right here, our sequence is nice and full. Brought the filter all the way down by using the mod wheel. And our melody is played with these Abbey Road strings, first violins, second violins, and cello an octave lower with the spiccato articulation. And then we've got these hammers for hand percussion, the darabukas right here. So I think that's a nice variation from the first time the melody comes in. Now in this section, the drum kit continues. And then I've got this really cool sound called Another Gateway Bass. And that really is kind of like almost like a weather report kind of a sound, Joe Zawinul. Really rich. And I'm doing some volume automation there, as you can hear. So the next thing we have right here is this Africa brass sound. So let's add that into the... So I haven't changed this at all. really beautiful. The two of those combined together are beautiful. The only thing I've done is I've taken out some of the mid-range on that because the bass is so rich, the sounds are so rich. I'm using these 4-note chords that are close voiced. It's just a bit much because then I also have this pad coming in over here, which is wash over me, which I haven't changed. So that's going to be coming in 3, 4, right, 2, right here. And I've done no automation on that at all. Let's just solo out that pad. Yeah, that's just the way the sound unfolds over time. And then I've got a small melodic figure with this flutescape sound. Let's see where we got there. Again, I've done no work. And then those instruments all combined without the drums. Then we have a return to the beginning with our little airdrops right on the downbeat there to give a nice accent. So let's do a segue. So let's do a segue where we can hear part of what we just heard, segueing into the next section with the accented airdrops on the downbeat. And then we're going to have a variation. Okay, so we go back to the beginning with the filter sweep, right? Doing our mod wheel, and we've got our opening drum groove, but then we've got this descending pentatonic scale right here with the filter mod bells. Shaper synth. You know, when you combine those together, it's really kind of like an 80s stacked MIDI sound. It really sounds cool. Lots of echo on that. And then I'm helping that out with a crescendo on the hammers, Darabuka. You can see the velocity moving up there. Let's take a listen with that added. Once this figure is done, we come back with the opening, and the melody is played by the airdrops, Lake Moon mallets. We've got a groove going with the hammers that complements the itchy kit, and then the violins and the cello double the melodic content. Let's take a listen, and then we'll solo out the tracks. Yeah, and it's also a bit of a variation on the melody. There's 3 notes instead of 2. Dee, dee, dot. Dee, dee, dot instead of dee, dot. Right? So the airdrops and the mallets, the Lake Moon mallets, that's this. And then the second half adding the violins. Violins and cello, and then let's just solo the hammers because I think this is a really cool beat I came up with. All of that with the sequenced synth up here together and the itchy kit. Well, actually, let's take the itchy kit and the hammers together and hear how they complement each other. After that section ends, we have a little bit of a reprieve while the filter sweep sequence up here, this reddish track, ends. And then we've got this chordal section here with parallel fourth chords ascending into the end. So let's take a listen to just the end of this bit into the next section and to the end, and then we'll break down all the tracks. All right, so let's solo and just listen to the Africa brass. It's playing an ascending pentatonic scale. Right, and I've done nothing to this sound. So you could see, though, that they've got a program that when you play a note, there's a little bit of a sweep in the filter, both filters. Interesting. So that's the top note. And then Birth of Ambient, which is this track here, this yellow track. And I'll show you, I edited this sound here. So the original sound is without layer C. So it's this. And what that is ascending fourth chord. So it's 3 notes a fourth apart, and it just goes up an E flat major or a C minor pentatonic scale as it's ascending, and all the notes just follow. So that was the plain sound, and then let's just solo layer C. And I've added these different waveforms here, and then I've gone over here, and you see how these are the same sound, right? Different octaves, but I've panned those hard left and hard right, and they've got sort of a really nice I've added some cross delay and chorus on that. All of those sounds together really stack nicely. Then on the downbeat of the last chord, I've got these airdrops playing a cluster of notes. So if I were to play one note with airdrops, and now if I play a cluster like a pentatonic chord, which let's say we're in the E flat, I would play G, B flat, C, E flat, and F. It really has a cool texture to it. So I'm not sure. Let's see what pitches I'm actually playing here. Right, C, F, G, C, and D. Okay. C, F, G, C, and D. Actually, it's like an F pentatonic scale, but without the A. And then the bottom notes, let's say there's layer impact, layered impact. That's the sound. I've done some editing. I believe that I added layer C to this, but let's just take a listen and see what each layer sounds like. So this is layer A. So that's the low pitch. Layer B. We've got that buzz. Right. And there's modulation, there's synth time and synth crossfade. And then there's layer C, all those high pitchy things. Yeah, I think that's nice. And then the last thing is Alaska Sweep. So let's listen to that. That's also on the end chord. So that's the two layers together. There's also Echo Boy on that. Let's listen to just layer A. So it's just that saw wave, and then layer B, right? More saw waves stacked together. So what I could do is I could take oscillator 1, pan it all the way to the left, oscillator 2, pan it all the way to the right, and then detuned saw would be in the middle. Yeah, that's nice. I should have done that before. Gives me a nice wide last note. So let's take a listen to that last little bit with everything together. Okay, everyone, that's a look at the Korg Multi-Poly Native in context. I like this piece of music. It's not what I typically would write, but I really enjoyed the process of it. And it's an inspiring and very deep piece of software. So I'm still wrapping my head around how to use it. And I had a couple of emails back and forth with Korg, although they had nothing to do with this. This is not a sponsored video. I purchased this synth on my own, but there was some tech support because I didn't know how to do a few things, and I couldn't find it in the manual, so I sent some emails, and they were very helpful. Anyway, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Leave any comments down below. If you feel so inclined to help this channel out, you can purchase me a cup of coffee. There's also a link for that below. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Pete Calandra, and I will catch you on the next one.